The TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Hello Cherries fans, and welcome to this special show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Now do us a favour, before you go any further, hit the like, subscribe and the bell button below. It does help this channel to grow, and please do share our videos with your friends and family as well. Get the message out there. Of course, our video today is with regards to the speculation surrounding a number of AFC Bournemouth players. We don't need to name them. Dean Huijsen, Illia Zabarnyi, Milos Kerkez, Antoine, Semenyo, Justin Kluivert, to name a few, have been linked to other clubs, plus, of course, Andoni Iraola. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to speak to an expert on this, and you know who this expert is already. But before we do welcome him on, here's a little bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find out more about them, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk, and a big thank you to our second sponsors, Touchpoint Telecoms. For all your business telecoms needs, do get in contact with Mark and the team. From Berkshire to Somerset, from Dorset to Wiltshire, from Devon to the West Midlands, anywhere that you can think of and everywhere in between, do get in contact with Mark and the guys. So, like I say, there is lots of speculation. Let's get stuck into this. Let's find out a little bit more. It is a pleasure to welcome back on from Sky Sports News, Mark McAdam. Welcome back to the show, Mark. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thanks. All good.
Excellent stuff. Excellent.
Welcome to my office.
I know. This
is life on the road.
Fantastic. Where are you today?
I'm actually in the training ground of Portsmouth Football Club. So just along the south coast. They've had a really good, solid season in the Championship, and the opportunity to see a former Cherry, Matty Ritchie, do a bit of training, and obviously look at what's going on down the road. So yeah, out and about working today, and I love coming to Portsmouth. Great city, great people, great club.
Excellent stuff. How is Matt?
He's good. I think he's happy. He's not been involved in the last couple of games as much as he'd like. So knowing Matty as we do, he'll be frustrated at that. But I think he'll probably be enjoying the latter stages of his career, influencing this young team, young manager, and really sort of showing what he's about and using all those years of experience at this level. So yeah, whenever I've watched Portsmouth play this season, Matty Ritchie's been heavily involved, key player, even well into his 30s. So yeah, I think he's doing all right.
Definitely, and all the very, very best to him. But let's talk about some current players, because there's a lot of transfer talk ongoing at the moment and lots of possibilities. And one player in particular that has been under a lot of interest is the one and only Dean Huijsen, of course, born in Amsterdam, recently played for the Spanish national team. And he didn't look out of place in that side, did he?
No, he's a superstar. It's funny actually because right at the start of the season, everyone was talking to me about Illia Zabarnyi and what a player he is and a centre half. And I actually kept saying to everyone, particularly at Sky, I said, you know what, I think Huijsen, I think Dean Huijsen's the one for me that looks like he could be a real player. Now both of them are top class, but obviously since Dean's got into the team, he's got a good run of games and he's shown exactly the qualities he has, why Bournemouth invested in him, why he's played at big clubs in Italy, and now why he's coveting attention from across Europe, because he has so much ability, so much potential. And it's astonishing to think that he's still, such a young player, but plays with such a maturity. So, yeah, I'm delighted to see his development. And I think what it shows is that Bournemouth's recruitment recently has been sensational.
Fabrizio Romano, though, put on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, not one of my favourite places, but put on there recently that Real Madrid are looking to activate this release clause. What do you know of this release clause? And is there any way that AFC Bournemouth can get around it by maybe even tempting Dean to sign a new contract? Or what is it? Is it true that release clause is in there?
I don't know because I've not seen the contract. But I'm led to believe that obviously the release clause is an active release clause, and that's why these things exist. Now, release clauses are only ever really put in there to protect the club's investment, and also sometimes players won't join a club unless there's a release clause. They'll say, I'll come to this club. I feel like I'm a better player than this club, but I want the option to leave should I prove that I'm better than I believe, the sort of position I am at this club. So I think those things exist. When you pay 13 million, 15 million for what Dean Huijsen was, I can't remember quite the exact figure, but you have a release clause of 50 million in there. If that's the release clause, then you're actually looking at it going, well, if we sell him in 12 months and we make that kind of profit, actually, that's a really good piece of business. And ultimately, that's what Bournemouth have to do. They have to make sure that they sign good, hungry young players. And if they do sell them, they have to be on Bournemouth's terms and they have to make a huge sum of money. And I think we all know in Bournemouth, we are always going to be a stepping stone. There's probably 15 clubs in the Premier League, maybe 16 clubs in the Premier League that are stepping stone clubs to those teams right at the sharp end of the division. So it's always going to be a situation where we are always having to buy low, sell high, get young players, develop them. It's a part of the model of the club. It's a part of what makes Bournemouth Bournemouth. And so far, we've done an incredible job of it. And we just have to hope that we continue to do that with what we're doing. So it doesn't surprise me. These things exist for a reason. Normally, you don't get the player without a release clause because that's what his agent, that's what his people will want. They'll want that opportunity to move on should he play well, which exactly is what's happened. And obviously, the agent will want everyone to know what the release clause is because then it becomes a bidding war. Everyone will pay it. And it's about what club does he want to go to and how much money can he get. And that's basically where we're at now.
With regards to one of the clubs that's been mentioned, Real Madrid, of course, probably the most prestigious club football team in the world. Is there a possibility that if they do activate this release clause and Dean does join them, that AFC Bournemouth can also dictate or negotiate maybe Dean coming back on loan at Dean Court for an additional season, maybe next year, because I guess it's going to be quite difficult for him to break in to that Real Madrid team quickly.
It depends. I really don't have as much detailed knowledge about Real Madrid's setup, what they've got, who they've got, how it works, and what their plans are for Dean. There's a part of you that would say, and even Dean's people would probably say, well, actually, the best thing for him is to carry on playing. Next season, he needs to play another 40 games, keep developing, keep building, keep improving, because then he'll be in an even better position to go and join Madrid. But then rarely are you going to pay £50 million for a player and say, yeah, no, you're one for the future. We don't want you now. You might do that for 10 or 15 million, but you're not going to spend 50 million and send him out on loan. I can't see that happening. As much as for him, his development needs to be playing football and continuing to build on what he's been about. I can't see that happening myself. So I think anyone that's thinking, oh, he might come back out on loan, I can't see that happening. I'm sure the club will explore every opportunity, try and do everything they possibly can to keep him. And you have seen it in the past. You know, Michael Olise did it with Crystal Palace, had a release clause of 35 million, which when you pay sort of 6, 7, 8 million for a player and you have a 35 million release clause, you think, well, that's a really good profit. But obviously, as he developed and as he improved, 35 million became really cheap. So what they did was they said, look, we'll give you more money. We'll give you a new contract. We'll change the release clause from 35 to 50, but people will still pay 50. If you still carry on playing like this, you'll still go in the summer because it's still a low release clause for the quality of player that you are. But Crystal Palace got an extra 15 million. They got an extra 12 months out of him. He got a lot more cash and then still got his opportunity to join a big club. I don't think this is a situation where he'll sign a new contract and then potentially go down the line. I think they're at a place where he has got all of the options on the table. He's got the world at his feet, and it's just going to be about what is the right project, what is the right club and the right opportunity for me. But you can see why teams are interested in him because he has everything. And the most exciting thing about Dean is he can get even better.
He's world class. He is world class. And of course, we've got a number of players as well that are just like that. Milos Kerkez has been an ongoing saga for a while and being linked to Liverpool. I know that because he's doing this YouTube show where he's playing computer games. To be honest, I'm more into Pac-Man and Sonic the Hedgehog. I think that's my limit there. But with regards to Milos Kerkez, he's already said that he's not going to Liverpool. Is that going to be? He's going to be swayed, though, isn't he? If the money does start coming in, and the agent is going to be in his ear.
Again, it depends. Milos is another player that's still so young, developing, and I think you can see from when he walked in the door at the Vitality Stadium to now is his improvement, his development. He's matured both on and off the pitch. And he is showing to be a really high quality asset for the club. There are not many left backs in the division. You know, if you look at, the top teams, obviously Lewis Skelly that's just gone in at Arsenal was almost by chance because of their injuries. Andy Robertson's getting towards the back end of his career at Liverpool. Manchester United have struggled with Luke Shaw's injuries. Man City not really had someone that's been top class in that position. You look at other sides, Man United. I've just mentioned Man United. There are, Newcastle. Lewis Hall's obviously young, but been in. So that there are not many top quality left backs out there in the division. So therefore, it's a position that people are looking at and thinking, right, we desperately need a left back. Where are the options? And then you've got Milos Kerkez, who's just spent 2 seasons at Bournemouth at the highest level, been a part of, 2 really successful campaigns. This hopefully and should be Bournemouth's greatest ever season in the history of the club. And he's been a huge part of it, virtually playing every minute of every game. Such an important player. So therefore, he has a value, and there will be a lot of clubs that will be looking at him going, right, can we convince him that now is the right time? And obviously everyone knows about the relationship between Richard and the Kerkez family. He obviously was hugely instrumental in signing him for Bournemouth. He understands the player. Not only has he been watching him for the last 2 years at the Cherries, but probably for 2 or 3 years before that, really understanding his development and pathway. When you're signing players, the players are often far less of a gamble than the players you don't. So you could see the link. You can understand why there's a link. And I think Milos and his family will just be looking at what's the right opportunity for me. But again, when big clubs come calling, like Liverpool, who are, a couple of wins away from being Premier League champions, it'll be hard to turn down. But I think he also knows that he's onto a good thing at Bournemouth. There's a good project there. There's a good group. Everyone is on the same journey. If the Cherries can finish strongly this season and end up with some form of European football, I think there'll be a part of him and there'll be a part of every single player in the group that says, do we just stick together for one more year and go on a little bit of a European adventure and see what we can achieve? I think that's still a real possibility. But I also think we have to be realistic that, yeah, we may lose some players this summer. But that is just the project. That is the process of what we're going through and what we're always going to be about. As I said, because I think there's a number of teams in the Premier League that are always going to be stepping stones.
How much of a necessity, and it's crazy I'm even saying this, Mark, because you remember, like I do, the -17 and, the issues around the club. Of course, you worked for the club for a number of years and, had challenges back then. But how much of a necessity is it that AFC Bournemouth get into some sort of European football this year, considering the players we've got and the vultures that are circling?
I don't think it's a necessity to get into European football. I think this is a massive opportunity for the club to do something they've never done before. And Bournemouth will never be in this position where they're literally 4 or 5 wins away from guaranteeing some form of European football. And it would almost be an overachievement. I think, you look at what's going on at the club, the investment that's been made, the training ground, the exciting plans for the future. It's always about progression, but it always has to be about being in the Premier League. So first and foremost, Bournemouth need to get enough points to survive in the top flight. Key, most important thing. And then that enables them financially to continue to show the ambition and build on the project. Now, this season has been sensational. It's been unbelievable. There's been so many highs. There's been so many incredible moments and performances and results. And it would almost feel like a disappointment if the end result wasn't European football. But at that stage, you have to put yourself back in the position and say, right, you're going to have your greatest ever season. You're going to get more points than you've ever got. Is that going to be acceptable? And you have to say, absolutely. And I would understand the disappointment if we didn't end up with European football. But it's about putting it in a sense of realism as well and just remembering where we are and where we come from and what we're doing. So it's hard at this stage because it feels like we're having a little bit of a wobble at the wrong time. But there's still a long way to go, still a lot of points up for grabs. And the next few games could be really defining with regards to where we finish.
I did speak to Alejo Rivera, who is a Argentinian sports journalist, about Julio Sola. Now, if Milos Kerkez does leave the club, he said that Sola could be just as good as Kerkez. Do you think that Sola, from what you've seen, is ready to step up into that role if Kerkez does go to Liverpool?
I don't know enough about the player. From what I've seen, I like him. I think Thiago and Frano have done an incredible job. Obviously, the back end of Richard Hughes been at the club as well. I think there's been some exceptional business done. And you can see that they are trying to sign players that are on the conveyor belt. And Brighton have been superb of it. It's, just that succession planning. Always trying to have someone in the door that is ready to jump into that position when that player inevitably leaves. And that's what's key, so you never get caught with your pants down. You're always in a position where you can go, right, we need to be ready for what happens down the line. And here's the next one. Here's the next one. Here's the young one that's going to do that role. And I think that's key. I think that's really key. So you'd have to back the club and their judgments and the business they've done and say, look, this is obviously a really exciting young player. But I also think we have to remember he's a young lad and you're expecting him to play in the most difficult league in the world. Now, he may be ready for it. He may not be ready for it. So I think, again, it's just a case of he's a young lad, back him, support him, give him everything he possibly can, see how he gets on, but don't have those expectations too high.
The other thing as well that does concern me with regards to players leaving the club, because of course it's not just Milos and Dean that have been linked. We've had Illia Zabarnyi, who's been linked with Real Madrid and Manchester City. We've had Justin Kluivert that has been linked away. We've got Antoine Semenyo, who's been linked away. And, we could talk all day about those players, but the one thing that does concern me is Andoni Iraola. And of
Mhm.
course, there's been links with Spurs. Now, I can't see why he would go to Spurs because of where we are in the table, where they are. And of course, we're competing for European football, and he's got a project here. But say, for example, if these players are sold, this team that he's building are sold because to make a profit, what is the chances and is there a concern from your perspective that you might go, well, I was building something here. We've sold off Ilya to Man City. Dean's gone to Real Madrid. Milos has gone to Liverpool. Semenyo's gone to Newcastle. Hopefully, this is a doomsday scenario. I might as well go to Spurs and start again. What is the danger of that?
You know, you're asking something I can't possibly answer. You know, Andoni has a contract for another 14, 15 months.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bill has said very publicly they'd like to engage with Andoni and his people to try and extend that. Andoni historically only signs short-term contracts. That's the way he operates. That's the way he prefers to work. I get the impression from speaking to people around Andoni, he is not jump at the first opportunity. He's not someone that's desperate for a bigger club right now. He's not someone that's desperate for more money right now. I think he sees his management as a long-term project, and he wants to continue to develop and improve and learn. And I don't think he will jump at the first chance. But of course, you've laid out the worst case scenario there. If he loses the whole of his team and has to rebuild, you know, he will be thinking, what's the point of me staying? So I just think we cross the bridge when we come to it. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. Tottenham are going through a lot of changes at the moment. Clearly, they've had a really disappointing season. Historically, they've been in and around Champions League football, which they're not going to get this season unless they outperform themselves in the Europa League. It's not a simple, you know, go to a club that's bigger than Bournemouth. I think there are a lot of things at play, and there will be a lot of big things that have to happen between now and then. But again, you know, this is not a situation that we shouldn't expect. Bournemouth fans know that we're going to sign young players, play attractive football, be really exciting, and eventually all of them are going to move on. You know, that's what's going to happen. That's the model of the club. Until we start establishing ourselves as a team that's consistently in the Premier League, that can try and challenge for titles and so on and so forth, it's always going to be that way. And look at Newcastle, 70 years from their last major trophy.
Yep.
A club the size of Newcastle has only won one major trophy in 70 years. So that tells you the type of challenge that Bournemouth has to try and just be in and amongst it, because you could argue Everton and Villa, and there is, you know, every single club, maybe 19 other clubs in the Premier League that say, well, we deserve to win a League Cup, we deserve to win an FA Cup, we deserve to be there competing in Europe. And you couldn't disagree with that. So it's a really bizarre scenario. I just think if we stick to our philosophy, we all understand we're going to lose players. We're going to carry on playing exciting, attractive football with young, exciting, promising players, some of the best young, dynamic players in European football, and stay in the Premier League. Then I think that is what we all want. And I think we go into every game, whether it's Man City or Liverpool or Southampton or anyone in between, believing we can win. And I think that is such a massive, massive asset going into a team. You know, we go against Liverpool and Man City, we believe we can beat them. And I think the fact that we believe that shows how much progress this club is making. The fact that we believe we can compete with a team that has a turnover of £750 million and go and beat them. And I think that shows you all we need to know. And I think we just have to enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. I love Bill and Jim and what they're doing with our club and what they're trying to do. And they're trying to do it sensibly. I think this is the most exciting era the club's ever had, built upon what Maxim and Neil did. Phenomenal job with this club. And we've been given the foundations to be a side that can compete. And I think that's so important.
You mentioned Newcastle there, Mark. Could we actually win the FA Cup, do you feel?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think, you know, we're one game away from Wembley, yeah?
Yes.
So, you know, one 90 minutes, one penalty shootout, whatever it is, you can win. We've proved we can beat Man City. And then you're at Wembley, and it's a toss of a coin. When you get down to the last four, you're at the home of football. Anything can possibly happen, and some of the big hitters are out of the FA Cup. So why can't this be a season where Bournemouth have the most phenomenal, incredible finish? You saw with Wigan, you saw with Portsmouth, who I'm at today. These things are possible, and I think with a club like Bournemouth, with the players that we've got that can compete with the best in the division, with a manager as dynamic as Andoni, and with a style of football that can be unpredictable and difficult to play against, absolutely everything is possible.
Well, fingers crossed. Last question I really want to ask is with regards to succession planning.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen Brighton have done this very, very well. De Zerbi to, of course, Fabian Hertzler.
hmm
And what sort of succession planning will Thiago and Frano have if, say, for example, Andoni was to go to Real Madrid, for example? And also, does that stem down to the players? Do they have, if this player goes, we have got this solution that we could bring in and look at a little bit further?
I think they would probably have a list of 66 players.
Mhm.
5 left backs, 5 centre halves, 5 goalkeepers, 5 strikers minimum that they will be looking at and monitoring. And I think that list will extend to head coaches. There will be 4, 5, 6 people on that list that they are watching, monitoring, looking at data, and they will be planning for Andoni moving tomorrow. I did an interview with Paul Barber earlier on this season, and he said one phone call changed the next 2 years of their football club. And that was the phone call from Chelsea to say we'd like to take Graham Potter to the club. So he woke up, he got a phone call, and his whole next 2 years changed because of one person leaving the club. It ended up being Graham Potter with his backroom team, but they had planned for that, and they had a list of people. They are always thinking about what might happen because one day you will get that phone call. And I think that the way that the club is being run by Neil, by Thiago, by Frano, they will be in the same situation. They will have a list and they will be working on potential replacements, even if they've not lost anyone yet. And I think that's the sensible way to operate the business. I think it's the right thing to do. So in that respect, I don't have any concerns. I feel really comfortable. Neil is a very experienced chief exec working with Black Knight. He's got a lot of knowledge and experience from other football clubs around the world and has obviously been the heart and soul of Bournemouth for a number of years. I feel really comfortable with him. The same with Frano, the same with Thiago, the same with Jim, the same with everyone at that football club, that they are all really highly well thought of professional individuals that are doing an outstanding job. So it would really surprise me if we got caught out with someone leaving and not being able to replace them with the person that we want. Of course, like recruitment, you might think this man is the best man for the job. When it comes in, it doesn't quite work out. So there's always an element of risk and there's always a gamble with every replacement that you bring into the club. But I'm totally comfortable that they will have a long list of possible replacements for every scenario that exists.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. Well, Mark, thank you so
My
much for
pleasure.
joining me on this show. All the very, very best with whatever you do, and
Brilliant.
no doubt we'll catch up very soon. Anyway,
Brilliant. Craig, I've got one question before you go.
go for it.
Finish 5th, get in the Champions League,
Yep.
or win the FA Cup. You can only have one.
Oh, do you know what this? Yeah, I would love to see AFC Bournemouth in the Champions League. Don't get me wrong. Don't
Okay.
get me wrong, but winning the FA Cup, a major silverware for the first time in our history, would be, the championship, winning the championship back in 2015 was special, but winning the FA Cup, I think it would put a marker down for us. So yeah, I'm going to go with, hey, let's win the FA Cup. You know, still finish in Europe though. Hey,
No, you
why
can
don't you
only have
do
one.
both?
You can
Oh,
only have one.
yeah, fair enough. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go with the FA Cup because it comes with Europe anyway.
There you go.
There you are.
There you
No,
go. Brilliant.
thank you so much, Mark, and we will catch up very soon, no doubt.
My pleasure. Cheers, Craig.
Thanks, mate. And thank you everybody for joining me. Hit the like, subscribe and the bell button below. It helps this channel to grow. Do also check out all of our other interviews that we've done. Mark has been on this channel several times, so you'll be able to find that all in the interviews tab. We even spoke to Mark before Bill Foley actually took over, so you might want to recap and watch that again. Of course, we have had special guests. Of course, Richie Neville from Five. He's actually going on tour very soon. Rich Archer from Hardfi recently released a number of new singles, as has Adam Devlin, his fellow Brentford fan, and the Blue Tones. Of course, Gaz Whelan from the Happy Mondays. He's also in there as well. Now got his own band, Yogi G and the Family Tree. Go check them out. And we've got Damon Minchella, Matt Priest from Dodgy and Ocean Colour Scene, of course, and lots more as well. And don't forget, Omid Jalili's been on here as well, the comedian, so plenty of laughs in that one. Again, thank you for joining us. Hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the bell button below, and we'll see you in the next show. Thank you for joining us.
The TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.